Welcome to a Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes. Tonight, again, I'm joined by Kev McCluskey for the Champions League match day. Kev, you've got a habit of turning up for the biggies, and tonight, having seen that lineup, it looks like we're in for an absolute treat. What's your thoughts, first of all, before we try and dissect it and get stuck in about these comments?
Aye, well, first of all, my thought is I'm hoping I'm turning up to a Celtic victory, which I haven't done for a while in the European games yet, in the big ones. And looking at that team, I'm pretty confident that this could be the night. You know, if you look at that team, it's fully attacking players, a lot of threat and promise in that team. You know, with Ange, he's not going to want to sit back and try and settle for anything. And that team is 100% set up to go out and attack right for the first whistle. So I'm very, very much looking forward to this one.
Oh, yeah, definitely. For anyone who hasn't seen the lineup, I think most of you have, going by the comments. I think the key question is how they are going to line up. But here's the starting 11 in any case. Joe Hart in goals with Juranovic, Taylor, Cameron Carter-Vickers and Jens at the back. And then it's a guess who, I guess. If you're going to go by what Jerry McCulloch was saying pre-match with Simon Donnelly, we're going to start with O'Reilly and Hatate in the middle of midfield, with Abada out right, Haksabanovic on the left, and Kyogo and Giakoumakis through the middle. According to Celtic TV, that's going to be the lineup. But I know that there's a lot of different opinions in the comments, which we'll get at. The substitutes are made up of Bain, Siegrist, Moy, Turnbull, McCarthy, Bernabe, I'm going to say Abligor, because apparently that's how you pronounce it, Maeda, Forrest and Ralston. We keep saying this, it's a strong bench. There's no out-and-out strikers on there, although Maeda can certainly play through the middle. If it is indeed the 4-4-2 formation, almost, that Jerry McCulloch alluded to before the game, Kevin, does that add a wee bit more excitement to it, two up top? Because when I first seen it, I thought to myself, oh, it's great that Giakoumakis and Kyogo are starting, but Kyogo will be wide left, Haksabanovic will be the number 10, Abada will be out right. That's the way I kind of read it.
Yeah, it's similar. I'm looking at the team just now, and 4-4-2 was probably the one permutation I hadn't thought of how you would play it. Sitting thinking it's a 4-3-3, or he's going 4-2-3-1, or that there's different ways you can play that. But 4-4-2 was probably not the one I was thinking of. But you've got two wide players there. We're always going to have the width. It's just a really exciting looking team that we've got. We're not going to try and sit back in this at all. I'm really curious to see how he lines up. And the fact that he's got all those different permutations and ways that he can play, it means that, excuse me, we should be able to manage this game pretty well, depending on how it's going. We should be flexible enough to flit in and out of formations and give Shakhtar a lot of things to worry about. Same players in the pack, but we can rotate them around and give them different problems at different phases of the game.
Absolutely. Just because Celtic TV have announced that that's the formation, that doesn't mean to say that's how Ange's going to line up. I mean, I'm just going by what was said. Red Scotland, always a pleasure to have you on the show, Red Scotland. Come on, get this wagon fired up. We've got even more to discuss. Now that Kyogo and Giakoumakis start, what an adventurous lineup. It is an adventurous lineup. And it takes us right back to the beginning, where we were being told by Dan Orowitz and Jared as well from Celtic Down Under that Ange Postecoglou is quite happy to win 5-4. In fact, he would be happier than to win a game 5-4 than 1-0. After the Hearts game, that's exactly what he said. He would rather the game was won 4-3 than 1-0. Are we in for a Partizan Belgrade style evening tonight, a 5-4 perhaps?
I'd settle for that right now. And I'm in Ange's camp on that one. The main thing is that Celtic win the game. And you'd take a 1-0 right now if it was what you were offered. But at the same time, we'd be like, I'd rather take a 5-4 because that's the Celtic way of just going out and attacking and making games interesting and exciting and difficult for ourselves. I just hope, though, if it is that Partizan one, at least this time we would come out on top. Because I do remember that game vividly, and being a young boy and just not having a clue and understanding how we'd won the game, but we were out,
I know.
So at least tonight, if we win this game 5-4, we're still in, and we're still in with a chance of the Europa League as well. So I'll take 5-4 right now.
No, I absolutely agree with that. I remember that game vividly. I really do. I watched it at Butlands. That's where I watched that game. I wasn't at it. I watched it
Jeez.
at Butlands.
There's some
Yeah.
things you don't admit, and that's one of them.
I'm sorry, man.
So
It's just cards on the table tonight.
we're getting all the revelations. It's all the revelations in these shows. Last time it was you don't drink beer, and now it's your
I
holiday
know.
at Butlands.
I know. Rock and roll on a Celtic
Rock and roll
statement.
lifestyle.
Talking of which, rock and roll. Talking of which, my tickets have been used by a bona fide rock and roll star tonight, but I'm not even going to say who it is. If you know where my tickets are, you can go and say hello to someone who is an absolute icon of the music world. Red Scotland, I'm bringing you up twice in a row because this is a good point also. Hacksaw 2. When I see Hacksaw, I just think of Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Now we're talking WWF wrestling from the 1990s. Where do they all play, I wonder? Is it 2 up top? According to Jerry McCulloch, it is. Or Kyogo in the 10? Or do they all just have a free roll? That actually goes back to the point you made. You've got Haksabanovic who can wander from the left to the 10. You've got Kyogo who could go centre forward to left. You've got Abada who can go right to left. Right to centre. And then in the midfield, I think with regards to that, you've got O'Reilly and Hatate. It does beg the question: what is going to happen with our two in the middle, Kevin? Because O'Reilly has adapted his play, and I think, and I keep saying it, but he has done very, very well since he's played a deeper role. But normally he's flanked with Hatate and Moy in there. Tonight there is no Moy; it's just Hatate. How's the centre of midfield going to look?
Aye, that's the big one. I think from a defensive point of view is how we're going to manage that. But I'm of the opinion with Matt O'Reilly that he just improved so much as a player with Callum McGregor being out because he's had to. He's the one player who's really adapted his game. I was cautious about him going back to the kind of more holding, more defensive role in the midfield because I didn't think he had it in him. I just didn't think that was his game. He seems a very offensive player, but he's grown already in the few weeks that McGregor's been out. He's taken that mantle on, taking the responsibility of putting in a defensive shift to the point that going into this game with Hatate alongside him, I'm not bothered that we don't have a recognised defensive midfielder. We almost don't need one for this type of game anyway, because I think we're going to have to go out and try and win it. Mm-hmm. We've got two boys in the midfield that have got energy, they're athletic, they're good on the ball. Both of them can win it back when they have to. So, trying to be offensively minded and positive about it, it's still a strong midfield. There's still fight in that midfield. If it comes to it, we've got Big Oliver. I'm not going to pronounce his surname because I will get it wrong, but we've got Big Oliver that can come on. McCarthy could come on and settle things down if we need to. We've still got options there. But from the off, I think we do need to be attack-minded. And the boys that we've got out there certainly share that mindset.
Yeah, you're right. And we're going to run through the team in a wee bit more detail. Obviously, you've not had a chance to speak about the Hearts victory as well. Earlier on, Declan and I were chatting around how this campaign will benefit the players. Because as we know, and as we've mentioned a few times, I mean, you just look at that particular lineup. In actual fact, missing Forrest, missing McGregor. Joe Hart, prior to the season's the only player that had any Champions League experience. And that I mean, the fact that this is the fifth game in the Champions League group this season means that for an ever-present, the most experienced outfield player's got 5 games under his belt. Now, I do think we need to highlight that, Kevin, because obviously it's a tournament, it's a level, it's a standard that you've got to acclimatise to as a footballer. And I think that after this campaign, even if the unthinkable happens and we get bounced out of Europe, you've got to think a wee bit more kind of medium term, i.e. next season, the players like O'Reilly and Hatate, who we've spoken about, Kyogo and Giakoumakis, all of them indeed outfield players, they'll have had the 5 or 6 games under the belt. And that will, that work wonders for the development at this level. Is that me just looking for a positive just in case we don't get through? Or do you think it is? And Ange himself, this is Ange's 5th game at this level. And I think he's learned a hell of a lot. And I did say, obviously you and I have been on most of the Champions League games, judge the second set of 3 games against the first and we'll win more points. Well, we won 1 point in the first 3 sets of games. We need to get a win tonight, obviously, to better that. But, going back to it, I feel that the experience will galvanise this side and it will actually benefit us next season if we do end up going out of Europe this season.
Definitely. I think there is a bit of you're having to look for a positive somewhere because we don't have the points on the board to show it. So if you've got the points, it's a lot easier to look and say, right, we've got 6 points in the group. That's a massive positive. It's a step forward. When we don't have the points, you've got to look a bit deeper. And I'll look back to last season because I was thinking about this earlier on. And you look at the group we had in the Europa League last season, and in some of the games, we were outplayed at times. I'm thinking kind of against Leverkusen, maybe at Celtic Park, we were unfortunate, but we were outplayed. I mean, they put 4 past us and they could have scored more. We showed frailties in certain games. And then this season, we've stepped up a level because we're playing against Real Madrid, who are the best side in the world. Mm-hmm. You're playing against Leipzig, who are at worst is equal to Leverkusen. You're playing against Shakhtar Donetsk, who are a better team than Ferencvaros. And in every game up until today, we've taken everyone to at least an hour and gone toe-to-toe with them.
Yeah.
So the progress is there in the performance, if not in the actual results itself. To get a win tonight, to get a Champions League win, the first for 5 years or whatever it is, that would be the icing on the cake to this campaign, I think. But progress is there. If you judge it only by points and by wins, you don't always see the true picture. And I think progress has been made on the pitch. And I definitely think going into next season, if we're back in the Champions League, we come back a more rounded team and a Champions League ready team, because everyone, if we can keep this group together, has that season of experience under the belt that we didn't have this season, which we often forget because we look at the domestic games and the dominance we've got and how good we are. And then we expect us to transfer that straight away into Europe. And it's a massive step up. It's a massive learning curve. But there hasn't been a failure. Like there's been a few players that maybe haven't done quite what we want from them, but no one's failed. No one's shown that they're not capable of playing at this level. I think everyone has to a degree. And that's where you take your positives. And that's where you can see that progress has been made. And then you come back next season a stronger side.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think about the lineup? How are we actually going to be shaping up this evening? Jake on the YouTube channel, everyone getting excited that Kyogo and Giakoumakis both play, but I'm worried it's a 4-2-3-1 with Kyogo on the left wing, where he is not as effective. That was my first thought, Jake. I do prefer him through the middle. Earlier on today, Lawrence and Declan had a discussion about Kyogo playing his first game against Rangers out left. And, it was when he came into the centre in the last 20 minutes of the game that we looked most likely to score. Neil Fullerton, I believe we will charge at them from the off and it'll be 3-0. I predicted earlier today 3-1. Kevin, there's going to be goals, absolutely. But when I predicted 3-1, I didn't realise we were going to be going out so gung-ho. I'm going to stick with my prediction, though. I'm not going to change it. What do you think? I know it's a wee bit early for predictions on the pre-match, but having seen that team and let it settle down, what is your prediction for tonight?
There will be goals, definitely. Since
there will be blood, earlier, I thought you were going to say that.
Yeah, there will be blood. Well, there might very well be. But since you mentioned it earlier, let's go for the Partizan Belgrade 5-4, or maybe make it the Tirol Innsbruck 6-3, or whatever that game was. I think it's got the potential to be something like that, because they're a decent side as well. We know that. Boys like Mudryk and Zubkov, they'll get forward. They'll cause us problems in the break. So I'll be very surprised if we keep a clean sheet, and we're going to have to score more than them. So. Yeah, Tirol Innsbruck
6-3. That's bold. That is the boldest prediction I've seen, even in the comments. Ewan boy, Martin, welcome back, Ewan. I hope you're well. Hail, troops. Is Ange playing a 4-4-2 tonight? Well, according to Celtic TV, he is, but we shall see, because it wouldn't, surprise me if even fooled the official club channel. Ed, will it not be Kyogo on the left and Haxa playing number 10? Look, we're all trying to second guess our Ange Postecoglou. Before we move on to looking through the individuals on the park, Ange, he's one of these managers, Kevin, that virtually every press conference, virtually every interview becomes a must watch. Now, press conferences can be pretty, I don't know, boring affairs because, they're pre-match or post-match. And you've got certain things that journalists are looking for so that they know who's injured, blah, blah, etc. And even at that, Ange comes away time and time again. He's been laughing at people this week. He's been calling them mischievous. Again, Ange is, he's come into this game in Scottish football, and I think that his achievements were underplayed by a lot in the press and in the broadcasting media, and he's constantly proven them wrong. And this week, it's almost as if he's got to that point, Kevin, but he's just tired of battering away the same old questions. And I'll tell you what, he won't miss you if you ask a question that's already been asked with regards to VAR last week. Or if you ask a question that he doesn't think it's his responsibility to answer, he will let you know. How impressed have you been with these post and pre-match interviews in the last week?
He's an absolute breath of fresh air, and he has been since the moment he walked in the door with these things. You've got to only go back to, was it after his first couple of games and his first mate to, was it Chris McLaughlin, I think it was maybe, from the BBC, and you just think, right, he gets it. He's not going to take any bull from anyone at a press conference. He's not going to take, he's got no time to answer frivolous questions. He just wants to talk about the game, talk about his team, focus on that. And that's how it should be. Like you say, if you're asking him the same question over and over again, trying to get a different answer, he'll put you in your place. And that's what you need. He's a character. And he's the kind of guy that, as you say, makes every interview that he does a must watch. You don't get that from very many managers. A lot of them come out with kind of stale answers all the time. And wears his hat in his sleeve when he answers as well and lets you know what he thinks. So
it's unmissable, isn't it?
Absolute breath of fresh air. Unmissable, yep.
Yeah, there was one comment, and Declan covered it extensively earlier on today, talking about glass ceilings and how, when he came to Celtic, how a lot of people wrote him off before a ball was kicked. They didn't fancy him to be an Australian manager managing in the Champions League. And he doesn't believe in glass ceilings. And I think, the discussion I had with Declan today was all around that mentality. And that shift in culture where if you do think that there are limits to achievements and success, then obviously ultimately you won't batter through that glass ceiling. And he's that type of manager that totally believes it. He's not read a couple of these self-help books and he's just reciting them. We all know them, right? We all things on your Facebook and they hit you with the same old motivational nonsense on a Monday for their car. But he's not like that. What he's telling you is genuine. It's authentic, Kevin. He actually believes. If you were to ask him in the next 5 years, do you think you'll win the Champions League? He probably does. He probably has that belief in himself. Now, I'm not going to say it is possible because the game has changed so much, but he doesn't believe in limits.
No, he doesn't. And he's the reason that on match day one, me and you sat here going into a game against Real Madrid, actually believing we could win the game. Mm-hmm. We laughed and joked that we'd probably become a meme on some site somewhere about it because of how positive we were. But he's the reason, because he actually does get you believing. And he's got the realism about him as well, where he'll probably admit, deep down, Real Madrid should probably win this game. But if you go into the park believing that, then they will win it.
Yeah.
If you go into the park believing that you can win, you've got a chance. So, I mean, that's kind of one of the reasons why I think I've been so positive coming onto all the Champions League shows and thinking, like, if you're going to the game, you don't believe we can win, don't go, because your energy won't help us to win. If you're a player that doesn't think you can win, don't put on the jersey, because you'll not win. But he genuinely makes you believe that 1% chance that you've got is actually a viable chance and that you can do it. And there's very few managers that give you that genuine belief. Mm-hmm. You'd bluff yourself into believing with another manager, with a Rodgers or a Lennon or Ronnie Dyler going into these games. Everything would be through green tinted specs that we could win this game. But with Ange, it's a genuine belief that you can do it. And that's a priceless thing that he brings to us above everything else.
It definitely is. I mean, people will think you're crazy for making any kind of comparisons between the side that we have at the moment and the management team compared to the greatest side that we've ever had. But there are similarities, let's just say, in relation to Ange coming in, revitalising certain players, because Jock Stein did that, obviously, moving players, moving positions. You know, there was that famous quote that Jock Stein halved the number on Bobby Murdoch's shots and doubled his effectiveness. And sometimes it's just knowing where to put a player and where they can be effective. And, you know, I was going to say this earlier on today, I never got the chance, but Greg Taylor starts tonight in a competition that many, many people on this show and many Celtic fans said he wasn't good enough for.
2 seconds, Paul. I'm going to have to plug in my charger.
It's fine. I thought
the joys of a live show.
I thought it was Pirlo. It's fine. In the meantime, I will go into the comment section, and I've got Jake on the YouTube. A club as big as Celtic cannot finish on a point in this group. There's only one Scottish team that are Europe's whipping boys, and it's not us. Jake, I think that, yeah, I agree with that sentiment, and I think that you won't have to worry because we won't finish on a point. I reckon that a win will be within our grasp tonight. And then again, Kevin and I will be sitting prior to a game at the Bernabeu, fully believing because of Ange Postecoglou that we'll be able to go and get something at the Bernabeu. Kevin, are you all plugged in?
And I will have my charger in.
Well, I was just talking about Taylor.
They say, never work with kids, animals and me, I think is the saying.
Technology, aye. I was talking about Taylor because he's one of the guys I kept hearing, oh, he's all right domestically, but he's not a European player, and we need European-class players. We spoke about the apparent upgrade from Ralston to Juranovic, and people were thinking, well, Bernabeu is going to be the similar upgrade on the left-hand side. Taylor's performances have been so good that that's not happened, and he starts again tonight in the Champions League on merit. He was the hero, obviously scoring the winning goal at Tynecastle. But we were talking before you left there for a moment about how Ange has had this impact on certain players. We're now going into this game pretty happy that Greg Taylor's playing left back in the Champions League. You know, last season I'm not sure we would have been, you know, given that set of circumstances, or the season before last.
Season before last, certainly not. He wasn't Champions League level a couple of years ago. He was a decent player. He was a Scottish Premiership level defender, but he was never the player that he is now. I remember last season being on shows and we're talking about the team. And you were saying, you know, our best left back is Josip Juranovic, and at a point in the season he probably was at the start of the season. Mm-hmm. But Ange has seen something. He's obviously coming with a system that he wants to play, but he hasn't replaced Taylor because he's seen something in him that no one else had seen. And he thinks, actually, this is the boy that will fit this system that I want. He's got that passing ability. He's got the intelligence that he can come in field. He knows how to play the game. And again, you know, I'm saying the thing about the positivity and the motivational aspect that Postecoglou brings. That eye for a player, an eye for a talent, is something else that he brings. You know, he has spotted something. Taylor would be a fine left back, and he would do the up and down job pretty well for anyone. But now he's been turned into a fantastic inverted fullback who gets forward and scores goals and helps to create chances and adds so much more value to the team. And that's all down to, well, it's down to Ange for picking him out, and then down to Taylor for actually having the kind of dedication, the hard work, commitment to go and see it through and do everything he's been asked to do. So, you know, he's definitely like that kind of number one Ange poster boy of work hard and you know, you'll get the results.
And buy into what it is he's selling. Buy into Ange, lock, stock. Yeah. Absolutely. You look at the two fullbacks.
Again, Taylor could have had the abilities, but not bought into it.
Yeah.
Not believed it. No, I'm just a regular fullback. But he did. He bought into it. He believed. And that's what I'm saying. If you've got that belief, but with a bit of natural ability, under Ange, you can, you know, the sky's the limit.
You look at some of the moments that Taylor and Ralston, I know Ralston's not starting tonight, but you look at some of the moments they've had since Ange came in, both in an attacking sense mainly, but also defensively. You think of some of the last-ditch tackles, goal line clearances that Ralston had in Europe last year. at the weekend there, he sets up the opening goal for Forest. He's done that so many times that, the goal against Ross County 7 minutes into injury time. Taylor,
Scored a very good goal as well at the weekend.
he did. He absolutely did. I
Should
know.
have been a legitimate goal.
I felt quite sorry for him because it was so well taken. The diving header,
Yeah, it's a brilliant goal, and he's done
it's a
that one
dying
before
art.
as well.
It's a dying art.
Yeah,
I'm not, and I think Taylor's also had his moments. He's had his moments, as recently as our win where Abada's ghosted in, and he was actually depicted as a ghost on the graphics that we were showing on the show last week. But the cross came in from Taylor. He's done that so often. People went on and on and on about his final ball. Well, his assists speak for themselves, and of course he pops up and scores the winning goal against Hearts at the weekend. What a game that was! Just for a moment, you've not had a chance to talk about it. I think we're in for a bit of and I says to Colin Watt on Monday, we don't describe football games as roller coaster games on Acsom. You've got to come up with something a wee bit more original. But we are looking at another topsy-turvy game tonight where it's going to be advantage Celtic and then perhaps then conceding. It well might be similar to the game against Hearts. I'd be surprised if it's not, to be fair.
Yeah, I'm expecting it to be similar to that, to be honest. That's why, when you brought up the memories of the Red Star game, I'm thinking, do you know what, that's probably not a bad analogy for what we might see tonight. We're going to go all out, guns blazing from the first whistle, I would think, trying to get the goals. They'll sit back, and we know they've got pace to hit us in the break. So I think I can see it being quite a kind of end-to-end kind of game, maybe more open than Shakhtar would like it to be, I think. As I say, I think there'll be goals in this one. Maybe my 6-3 is a bit outrageous, but I'm going to stick with it anyway, because why not?
Good man. You've got to stick with it. Juranovic-Mudryk was an interesting contest because, people go on about the star talents. I was watching earlier on today the Neville interview with Paul Scholes, and they were talking about the ridiculous nature of Haaland at Man City, etc. But I think in a couple of moves, Mudryk could be one of these players that is at a top European club. Yet against Juranovic, I think he scored the goal. I know, and he burnt him for pace. We get all that, but I thought Juranovic recovered pretty well. And having Carter Vickers behind him tonight and playing at home, I think we're going to have a different evening. He's still the danger man, I get that, but I really do think that we can contain him, particularly with Carter Vickers behind Juranovic. What's your take on that? Because I do think I was maybe quite critical of Juranovic in the last European game. I thought he tired pretty badly in the last half hour of the game, 20 minutes of the game. And the final two goals, came from his area of the park. There weren't errors on his part, Kevin, but I just felt he had tired by that stage. That's going to be an interesting battle tonight, a head-to-head, isn't it, between Juranovic and Mudryk?
Yeah, it's going to be a massive game for Juranovic in particular. As I was going through the teams in the group before and saying, Madrid best team in the world and all this, the third-ranked team in the group, Shakhtar, has got a player, Mudryk, who's valued at about 70 million or something like that. Is it not something ridiculous that he was being linked with Newcastle in the summer? 50 million, 70 million, something like that.
Yeah.
That's the level that we're up against. It's an insane amount of money, and he is that good a player. He's shown it in the games that everyone's seen him play. He's such a talent, a raw talent. When he gets the ball at his feet, he can just run at players, and it's a frightening sight. Excuse me. It's going to be massive for Juranovic, because I do think he's probably been the weakest of the defenders so far. And it has been, if it's not through lack of ability, it's just been that come the hour mark, the 70-minute mark, he's done in. And teams have kind of targeted him in the last 20 minutes of the games. But he's another one, though, if you think about it. He's the right back for the World Cup finalists in the last World Cup. He's not in that team as the first choice right back. Mm-hmm. He's no mug. He's a very good player. If he's on his game tonight, I think he can handle Mudryk. I think he can give him a game. And the fact is, if we're going out to attack, Mudryk doesn't see the ball. That's going to be our game plan. If we can keep the ball away from him, he won't cause us any problems. If we can focus on what we want to do, what we can do best, we can keep him quiet. And we did largely in the away game. He scored the goal and he had another couple of good runs, but over the course of 90 minutes, we kept him largely quiet. And I think we're having Carter Vickers in behind now as well, that Cameron influence, a bit kind of stable, level-headed player there as well. That allows Juranovic to push up a wee bit more, become a bit more offensive, because he knows he's got the best defender in Scotland behind him. So it's going to be an intriguing battle, definitely. But let's just hope it's not one that we actually see all that much, because we can keep the ball away from Mudryk and up the other end.
Yeah, nullify the threat. And I'm looking forward to Cameron Carter-Vickers and Jens finding Haksabanovic with these crossfield passes that were so effective against Hibs. And we didn't see enough of them, actually, in the few games we were when Carter-Vickers was missing. I just don't think we've seen enough of that, missing out the full-backs, going straight to the wings. That's what we need to do. The game is about to, or has just kicked off. Let's go and get the action, Kevin, and at half-time we'll see if your 6-3 is going to come up. Thanks everybody for getting involved. Thank you, Kevin McCluskey, for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.